This for me is food heaven. My mum used to make these for me as a kid. I used to love these. And this is what I want to share with you today. My family recipe on lovely Pakora. We're going to chop the cauliflower and let it soak in some boiling water while we prepare and chop everything else. Just do it into thin slices so it's evenly cooked, not too thick, maybe a few centimeters. Just try to be consistent with it so it cooks consistently at the other end. Like there. Let it soak. And leave that to the side. There's two types of Pakora. Just straight potato only, or the mixed one. This is just cabbage. I'm just cutting it very thinly. All of this is to add an element of crunch and different texture to the Pakora, because you can obviously have potatoes, you can have carrots, you can have onions, but you know, it's whatever you've got in the fridge you can add in, and if you want to try it and experiment, you try it, and if it works for you, then you're good. I'm going to add some onions as well, just chop them very finely in the same manner. Right, now I'm going to add some chilies for a bit of heat. Obviously it depends on if you want a lot of heat in your Pakora or not. It's entirely up to you. If you don't fancy a lot of heat, you can maybe put one or two for this volume of veg. If you want a lot of heat, you can add. The thing with heat is you can always add to it. The one thing you can't do with heat is take it out. So you have to be careful not to overdo it initially, because then you end up with a whole batch of food which is just too hot for anyone to eat. Okay, now I'm just gently mixing it together before I add the spices. Okay, so here we just add in the spices. Once it's mixed together, blended together, what you do is you add in your salt. For this volume, quite a lot of salt, because when you deep fry, it takes a hit. Same happens with the chili powder. Normally you would not use this much chili powder in any dish, but because you're deep frying it, it takes the heat off it. If you try that by itself, it will blow your mouth out. But when it's deep fried, you won't even notice it. It'll just give a nice radiant heat. Add some cumin. Garam masala, now you can add either chopped coriander or coriander powder. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to add some coriander powder. It's the same as adding fresh coriander, but it's just easier to mix and make sure that it spreads over all of the ingredients. Corn flour, just to lighten the batter. Then you add baking powder to help it rise and stay light. So I'm going to have 1 heaped teaspoon for the moment, and then you add the gram flour. So the gram flour you can buy in any Asian shop. And then you gently mix so it's everywhere. And then, bit by bit, you add water, a bit at a time. Yeah, you start gently. You don't overdo it with the pakora mixture. You don't overdo it with everything else. The thing is, as you can see, it's turned very liquidy, and because of the sheer volume of the vegetables, there's clearly not enough gram flour to hold it together. So I need to add, and this is why you do it stage by stage, and then you keep adding until you get to that right mixture of gram flour. So you've got to make sure the batter is the right consistency and also gives you the correct taste. Okay, so what you need to do is make sure that when you keep mixing, that eventually you see all the flour, bits of flour that you had added disappear, and it becomes completely covered. As you can see, look, there's a bit of flour there, so I've got to mix it until all the flour disappears, and it's got a very thin layer of batter on it. So you can just keep adding and tweaking until you get what you consider to be a decent batter. What we've got is some freshly chopped coriander, and once I'm happy with the batter, I add it in at the last possible minute and then mix it in.
Damn good.
Yeah?
Very tasty. My oh my. I've tasted this kind of food everywhere around the world. Largely in Tooting, to be fair. Tariq Mirza, you are an absolute genius. I think he made the mint sauce himself. You need some of this, and you need it now. Bye.